What if the stress you're feeling today has less to do with your workload and more to do with patterns you've been carrying for years? My guest in this episode landed in the emergency room because of chronic stress. What she discovered afterward completely changed the way she understood burnout, people pleasing, and healing. This is a powerful conversation with stress management expert Lolita Guarin. Welcome to Overcome with Travis White. Lolita, why don't you start us off by telling us about your journey?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I love when others create place for someone to share their story. I also support a lot of authors who want to write their books for to share their story. So I really appreciate you giving me the stage to share my story. And for those who are listening and immediately can tell that English is not my first language and wondering what is that accent is from, I came to US 26 years ago from Lithuania. It's a country, very small country in Europe, just for those who don't know. And I kind of felt since I was a teenager that I belong to this country because my birthday is on 4th of July. And since, when we're recording, this is a 4th of July weekend, and I thought just congratulate everyone and celebrate 250 years of this amazing country that I was called to come to. Um, and my story really, I don't think that is so different from so many people. It doesn't matter where someone is coming from or where someone lives, because I came to a land of possibilities to work hard and achieve my dreams. But I think that's what everybody does in life, right? You always have goals and
Mm-hmm.
you're going to work hard for those. Um, it's just what happened is I was just doing my best to the point that I got physically sick and I had to go to our emergency room. And the doctor pretty much told me that I caused my body hormonal disbalance due to stress. And I was like, well, I'm in my 30s. I mean, I should not be sick. I know that I'm my prime. And this is the time when we always, push ourselves to achieve everything we can because that's the time for us to do everything that we want to do. Um, but that was the moment, what they call a wake up call, one, I was like, okay, I need to start looking at my life. What am I doing that's working and what it doesn't work for me? Because I did not want to take any medications. And, it's so easy these days. You have a little problem and they immediately tell you, oh, you just take some pills, you'll be fine. But it was not like, oh, my blood pressure was high or I have inflammation or something. It's not like surgical or so basically, they said, I need to take care more of myself because I was not sleeping enough, and not drinking enough water, not eating nutritious food, and that's like common sense, right, for a human body just to keep. But another thing that I noticed that was constantly keeping me in this hypervigilance, and I was very stressed. And I was very big in people pleasing, and I was working hard and was accepting everybody who was, throwing work at me, and working weekends because I wanted to prove to myself and others that I can do my job and I can achieve my dreams. And again, like, I'm not saying anything new. A lot of us, doing what we can. But I think what I discovered that when I started taking care of myself more, I became a stress management coach. And because I saw that there are many that could resonate with me when I go and some networking events or parties and we start talking about stress, I realized that, that's like a very common. People do stress a lot in our society. I mean, we all stress so much. Um, and I was very inspired to help other people because there were things that I did in my life that helped me to regulate and get enough sleep and regulate my nervous system, and I was doing pretty good. Until one day, I finally discovered the bottom of my stress and why I was behaving the way I was behaving. Um, I was reading a book about how to get more coaching clients. Since I was just opened my coaching business, and the author of the book mentioned that she was an adult child of alcoholic, and I never heard that terminology before. I was like, I was reading what she had to say there, and I realized that, wait a minute, my dad was alcoholic. And, some days he would be very functioning and he's nice and smiling. But when he would be drunk, he would be very violent. Um, and then I read the book that she recommended to read um, for adult children of alcoholics. And I realized that that was me. And then it all made sense. That's why I got so sick, because I grew up in the environment where I was not taken care of. Um, my mom was doing her best. And of course, I went to school and I always was fed and I had a bed to sleep. And, nothing compared to some stories, that someone can share, that are horrific stories where they will be really majorly abused. And I wasn't, none of that. I mean, my dad was very violent and, but I always had what to eat, and my mom tried the best. And I went to school and a good student, and looks like we're a very normal family. Um, but the thing is that I grew up in an environment where I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I was protected, and I was constantly hypervigilant. So when I came to a new country and I became this adult that's now going to take care of myself and striving to be more, I was just people pleasing. I was afraid to say no to people, to projects. Was pushing myself very hard. That everybody can relate who wants to achieve the goal. And I later realized that a lot of us in this society, we wear stress as a badge of honor, because in our society is to push yourself, to stress, to produce, to constantly bully yourself into even things that you don't want to do. That's what's desired in our society. And it doesn't matter. When I do a lot of talks and interviews on other podcasts, and they ask me, they're like, well, do you think that US is very different than Lithuania? Because I come from two countries. And I say it doesn't matter what country you live in, because stress doesn't have a nationality.
Mhm.
It's really about what environment that you come from and how you learn to deal with life, and what patterns have you learned from the environment that you grow up in. And so that's what I do now. I am a stress management coach and a speaker, and I have online classes I teach, where I talk a little bit deeper than just how to manage your stress through meditation and diary writing. What they call stress management bandages, and asking someone to be courageous enough to look deeper into why we do things that we do, and how we can help ourselves to be better selves without bullying ourselves.
I absolutely love it. I have a few thoughts and directions I could go here. First of all, I really love that you took your own story and figured out a way that you could help people. I think that's fantastic. Because, like, we all could use stress management, right? Like, it's hands down. I think we all live in this world where we're trying to not feel the burnout. We're always busy, things are always going on. But this leads me to my first question. So, when you figured out what was going on with your body and came into this health crisis, what was the hardest truth you had to accept about yourself?
um First one, I realized that I behave the way I'm being taught to behave from early age, and that a lot of how I really bullied myself or couldn't protect myself, it came from that environment. I felt like I was broken and there is no way back for me. Um, because I had no idea that all of this childhood and this trauma was impacting me, and it felt that that's it. I'm broken. There's no way out of it because that's the part of me, and it became very lonely. And that's one of the reasons why I share my story, because and I have published quite a few books about stress management. And when I do speak and when I coach, or in the bigger groups, I give presentations. I have um, quite a few people come to me and they say, "Thank you so much for sharing this. That my dad was alcoholic, or my mom was also alcoholic, or had some addiction problems," because in our society is not really a good thing to talk bad about your parents. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We always will talk about our grandparents and grandmothers always cooking us cookies and always tucking us to sleep. And, so it becomes extra lonely because if you grew up in the environment where you didn't feel safe and you've been abused, no matter how physically or emotionally, we are afraid to seek help. And then it becomes very extra lonely. And I'm only one child, so I don't have brothers or sisters. And but of course I had plenty of friends, but I couldn't tell my friends what was really happening. I mean, they saw my dad will come back drunk, but I was still smiling and everything is great. That's like a normal family here. um and I think if I had the brothers or sisters, they will be living inside the house, then they themselves can see what's happening.
Hmm.
But it was a very hard place for me when I started on that journey of realizing what was wrong with me. Per se, what was it felt very lonely, and I felt like I was very broken. The second thing that came to me is I became very angry at my dad and my parents that they could not provide me the childhood that I deserve of just being supported and safe. And then it was interesting to see how I moved to a next stage of understanding that, well, my parents are also children. They also grew up with their own childhood traumas. And then I start thinking about my grandparents. And we Lithuania is in Europe, so we had all of those, World War II and one, and all of usually it's like in the place between Russia and Europe. So we had constantly wars through the centuries. So that's meant that trauma of constantly losing a family member, or being in despair, or in the fear of abandonment and not enough of food, or anything, was really generational. And uh, and that was the point when I really thought about my dad as someone who's really struggling, and any addiction is a soothing mechanism. He's protecting himself from the pain that he's feeling. And I started digging deeper into understanding why he was drinking. And then when I understood that he's another child that didn't get what he needed, his own safety from his parents, um, that's where I found the understanding and empathy and forgiveness. And that all that angry part of me was gone. And that's when I realized that, wait, I'm not alone. There are plenty of other people that are there, maybe thinking that they're alone and they're broken. Then there's no way out of this. And I had more empathy towards those who are also struggling with addiction, because really at the end of the day, we always doing the best that we can. And uh, and I truly believe that hurt people hurt others. So when somebody is hurting themselves, um, they also may hurt others to ease their pain. And that's not the right way to do it. But the more light we'll shed on that, the more empathy we'll have towards others. That's when we can include others, so we do not feel so alone, and we can help each other.
Yeah, I really like that. We hurt people, hurt others. I love that saying because it's so true. And you see it all the time, but I've never really thought of it that way. It's, but there's a lot of truth to it. I have another question here for you because we're talking about basically being in survival mode quite a bit. What are some signs someone is operating from survival mode instead of truly living?
Um, First comes to mind that it's like someone can ask themselves, how often do they get triggered? Meaning, for example, there's an example. Let's say you and me, we are in the same room, but in the hallway on a closed door where we don't see the other people, we hear that someone is arguing. Now, for you, that you may grow up in a what we say normal environment where you felt safe and you felt seen, and or you know how to you know feel in a more safe environment. You may think that those people outside the door, they're just arguing about the football game that they saw yesterday, right? They're just passionately talking about something that they care, and it doesn't include you. It's all about them. It has nothing to do with you. Now, I grew up in the environment that I'm constantly had to be hyper vigilant, and I wanted to always feel into my environment to see, what's going on. Will I be safe? So when I hear someone arguing, it immediately triggers me a sense of insecurity of, oh my gosh, I'm not safe. They may barge into a room. I need to call 911. Where are the exits? Or what do I need to do? And it reminds me of that situation where I grew up, where I had to protect myself and run away to another room because I wasn't sure, where that violence is going to go. So if someone in any situation and they already can notice that they looking for they always assume the worst case scenario, that's already indication that you're operating from hypervigilance and not from the place of safety where you can enjoy the moment and you can say, oh, it has nothing to do about me, this just life goes on and I trust myself because life is good. There's another thing that I notice a lot with those who not really living and surviving is uh, has to do a lot with people pleasing, trying to save everyone and trying to make sure that environment will be safe for them. And people pleasing, it could be very easy to understand if, let's say, you are in the workplace and your boss comes and say, hey, can you do this thing for me? And you already have a lot of work to do, but you want to please your boss. In other way, saying, well, if I will say no, I'm afraid to say no, because if I will, I may get fired, and so I'm going to do it. There is another story that I just remembered from from my life on the long time ago before I started working really on myself and on my healing. I remember there was a boss that my supervisor. He said, "Hey, can you come with me to the office? I need to talk to you." And I immediately got scared because that was a major trigger for me, because I was not really living in joy. I was living from the scarcity, from this fear. And I remember I was walking to his office and there was like this long hallway we needed to go through. And I was immediately thinking, what did I do wrong? And in my mind, I was just thinking, okay, did I work on this project? Did I work on this project? What did I do wrong? Did I say something? Did they send something? Then we finally arrived to his office, and I sat down, and I'm thinking to myself, he's gonna fire me. Like, he's for sure gonna fire me. Like, I didn't even imagine. Like, I was catastrophizing, right? I was immediately going into the worst case scenario. And then he says, um, well, this quarter, is being different ways on our budgets and our profit lines. And he started explaining to me the profits. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, here we go. He's justifying why he will let me go. And then he started talking about my workload, and I was like, okay, there you go. This is just, this is how it is. So because I hear only the bad things in this. And then he says, so because you work so hard and we did so well this quarter, I will give you a raise. That was a shock to me, because you see, the moment when he said, I want to talk to you, I was expecting the worst, because that's what I used to all of my life since I was a child, that, they say waiting for the second shoe to drop. And I was catastrophizing. In a lot of situations in my life, I would expect the worst because that's this, preservation mechanism of I'm immediately jumping into conclusion so I can preserve myself. And of course, that was a shock to hear that I was getting a raise. And so I remember this story later on. So when I am in a situation that it looks to me, oh, maybe that's going to go wrong, and I catch myself catastrophizing, I remember the story. And one of the lists I tell my stress management coaching clients, I tell them to write a list when you remember a story in your life where you were expecting things to go wrong, but they actually turn out to be for the better. So, for example, you applied for the job and you didn't get the job, and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm so bad. I didn't get the job," and you think that this is as a failure, but then later you find out that the company went bankrupt. Or we all have those girlfriends, boyfriends that we're so in love and we thought we're gonna marry them, but they dump us, so we dump them, and then later on in life you say, "Oh, thank God I didn't marry the person because they would not be a good match anyway." But while you're in that situation where it looks like you failing and you losing, and it can be very, very stressful, but somehow we don't pay attention on the good side when actually something good happens. When we survive, when we make it, when we achieve that goal, when we manage a situation, when we heal, when we get that raise. And I always recommend everyone to keep that list where you can write all of your winnings. When you write that, there was a silver lining in that story. And then when you feel like you need to have more inspiration, or you have doubts about can you get something done or achieve your goal, or when you have that moment when you feel low and you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm going to make it, I recommend to read that list and remind yourself that you can make it. And maybe it looks dark right now, but you definitely can see the light at some point.
Awesome. This is great. I can see so many directions right now. So, first of all, I can highly relate. I'm a huge people pleaser myself. I've been trying to get away from that because I feel the more I live for myself, the better off I am. And I'm the type of person I think that we need more no people, because at some point in our lives I believe that we're trained to say yes, but to me that plays a huge role into causing the burnout that we're all experiencing.
It all starts, from just acknowledging that human condition is already is a package, comes as a
Hmm.
package. We have to people please because humans are born not like we just drop from the mother's womb and start running like horses. We need other people to be fed and saved. And if we learn very early in our, babies already know that when they please the parents, when they please the other people, they get fed. So then we learn to be kind and nice and or you know do whatever they expect us to do, and whatever rules the environment give us, we will follow that because we want to survive. But then the sad part is that we take this all in our adult life, and then we still behave like we with children, that we're still hungry and nobody else can do this for us. But then we need to really acknowledge that we're adults now and we can survive, and but we still need other people, of course, for all of other things. But when I have clients that they work with and they have difficulty of doing anything for themselves and are saying no to uh, different projects or saying no to other people, that's a very easy, you know it can be hard for a people pleaser to start saying no. And the easiest way how to do it is um start small steps. It's if somebody says, hey, for example, what you doing this weekend, I want you to come and help me to clean the garage, for example, and you already have other things that you want to do, or maybe you don't want to do that, you want to spend that time doing something else. you even can immediately say no if you feel, but if you don't, you can say, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. So it's kind of yes or no, but you give yourself permission to still think about it. And then later, when you already made a decision and you don't feel like you are on the spot that you need to um, please them and then go against yourself, then you can later tell them that no, maybe it will not happen. But how about next time? Um, and I think the beautiful thing is, when we start saying no, we see that the world will not fall apart. And I tell you a story from my life. I had this one friend that I will go and see her every weekend. It just, there was a time when she needed some support, and it became like a habit. So every Sunday, we will go meet for lunch. And I came to the point that what can you talk about every single weekend? That's a little too much. But I was afraid to tell her, like, can we just do it every weekend or like every second weekend or something? But I was afraid that I will disappoint her. I was afraid that she will be disappointing me as a friend. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, I know, Sunday lunch is with her. And then when I started working on myself and healing, one day I said, what if we not meet this weekend? Maybe we can meet, in 2 weeks or sometimes other time. And she said, oh, thank God you don't want to meet this weekend. And I was surprised. I was like, what? Like, oh, wow, that was easy, right? And turned out that she was a people pleaser too. So she didn't want to hurt my feelings.
Yeah, she was thinking the exact same thing as you. She just didn't know how to say it.
Exactly. So we had a very good laugh. But how many times do we uh, have a difficulty of really saying what we think because we are afraid to hurt other people's feelings. We don't want to hurt, like we want to please them. We have a fear of abandonment that, we're afraid, like, well, if we're not going to please them, we're going to hurt their feelings, that they want to be my friend anymore. And so, or we so kind that we think that, you know, maybe she was expecting this time and now I feel guilty of telling her that I'm not going to spend that time with her. So when we have enough courage to really vocalize what we feel, that the beautiful thing about this is that when we're standing in our truth, then we give permission for other people also to say how they feel. And then we can all have a more truthful and less stressed environment that we can support each other, and really from without that sugar coating, and then nobody's really happy at the end of the day, when it could have been so easy if we just really said yes, no, I like yellow book, I don't like apples, and we just say what we feel.
Yeah, I agree. I actually had a thing today because I feel like when you're a people pleaser, a lot of times, to me, it's almost like you have to lie to yourself sometimes to be that people pleaser. And so I'm finally getting out of my shell and saying, no, I don't want this. I don't want this. Like, this is what I want in the future. So I was actually in a call with somebody, and they're at work, and I hope that they're not listening to this because I don't want them to jeopardize anything. But I was asked in that call by one of my bosses, well, where do you see yourself in the future? What do you want to do? And I basically said, I don't want to do this. And he said, well, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? And I said, well, I see myself building my own business eventually. And that doesn't include anything that I'm doing right now. And I actually felt really liberated to be honest, because for the longest time, I feel like I've been living this lie of telling people, well, I want to stay on this career path for the rest of my life, because it's not true.
And what also has to do a lot with stress management and self trust is that when we in situations like that, when we are afraid to say what we feel and what we want out of people pleasing, out of we want to be safe, that's the moment when we abandon ourselves. And it may look like, well, it doesn't matter where you go, you take yourself with you, right? Well,
Hmm.
but no, because we learn when we, in our environment, when we still depend on adults, we learn that if they don't like the part of us the way we are, it is detrimental to us that we stick to that part of us. So then we learn to deny the part of us in order to please them, so we be safe and fed. And so then that part of us stays not seen or appreciated or integrated with us. And then that's how we learn how to abandon ourselves. So then when we become adults, uh, with this all the people pleasing and not telling the truth to others, but even to ourselves, that is also the part of abandoning yourself. And we making ourselves even more isolated. And on top of that, when we abandon ourselves, we prove to ourselves that we cannot trust ourselves. So if we don't trust, that's mean we're not sure how we will handle things in the future. So let's say we're talking about stress management and how to be less stressed. If you trust yourself that you can manage no matter what will be thrown at you, you will be less stressed for the future, because you'll have the confidence of knowing, you know what, no matter what happens, I know I'll be fine. But if we do not trust ourselves, if we abandon ourselves, we have no idea what's going to happen in the future, and then it just triggers more of an anxiety. And I also say we need to stop bullying ourselves. All of this pushing of we need to be better, we need to work harder, we need to prove who we know what we worth. It is basically we abandoning again, and then we abusing ourselves. So that's why it's extremely important for us to be truthful to ourselves. Is that's what I really want? Is that really want? And we need to ask ourselves, why do I want something? Is it because I'm being told to want this, or because my family wants me to do this, or am I really truly want to do this for me?
Very well said. And I agree 110%. I think trusting yourself is an important step to making progress in life and actually owning who you really are.
That also, when I started learning how to trust myself, I realized that I've been taught from early age not to trust myself. And you would be very simple things as um, I could be cold or I'm hungry, and let's say I will, and that's not only my family, but a lot of times how you can see the children being brought up in our society. If let's say I say, "Oh, I'm cold," and let's say my mom would say, "No, you're not cold. It's not cold. It's not cold. It's a nice weather. I mean, what are you talking about?" Or I will say, I'm hungry." And she will say, "No, you're not hungry. You just ate. I mean, we just ate dinner like an hour ago." I'm like, "You're not hungry." So I'm being taught to question what I feel. I'm being question. I mean, I learned that what I feel, what I think, maybe not true. So when I talk with those who come asking for coaching, and I say, well, you need to learn how to trust yourself. You need to stop bullying yourself. You need to do what you want to do. They don't even know what it means to do what you want to do. They don't, and I myself, I was like, how can I trust myself if I've been taught to question myself? And small trust, I mean, of course, the trusting yourself starts with small steps, and it's stopping making promises to yourself that you cannot keep. Like, don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go today to the gym, and then don't go to the gym because you just broke your own promises. And I was a master at this. I would always have like a list of, things, what I'm supposed to do today. And I'm going to, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to do my yoga. I'm going to write my diaries. I'm going to be doing all of this stuff. And then by the end of the day, I would be tired, of course. I was, working and doing all stuff all day long. And now when it's time to go for that, gym visit, I'm like, I am just too tired. I'm not going to go. And then I will be disappointed because I was giving myself a promise and I didn't keep it. So I am deteriorating this trust in myself, and I'm pretty much telling myself that I'm not capable. So then I stopped promising anything. And if, let's say, someone says, how about we'll meet on the weekend for lunch? I used to be saying, absolutely, you are on my calendar. I'm absolutely going to see you. Now I say, let me get back to you and I'll let you know. We'll see how it goes. And then I kind of let myself, do something. And now when I have clients and they say, oh, we need to eat well and do, let's say, the same gym exercise, I say, if you don't promise yourself nothing and just tell yourself, I will do it if I feel like it. And then when that moment comes, then you tell yourself, if I don't feel like it, I'm not going to do it. So here is how you build your trust with yourself, because you honored your needs. You did not abandon yourself. And you also didn't bully yourself on something. And so I think our goals we should do something that we're inclined to do. But I think we'll have more success in achieving something when we know we have a way out and we are the ones who are holding the key in doing something or not doing. And I think that's why the diets and big programs, everybody starts New Year's going slimming up, or any of those success gurus for, taking 3 months and you'll become a millionaire. They barely ever work because we are doing it from the wrong perspective. We're abandoning ourselves, our own needs, and then we're bullying and abusing ourselves. And that's not the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to the trusting yourself, it just got me thinking, because that's a big part of framework that I've been working on, is trusting yourself. But in order for me to, you know, learn how to trust myself, I had to learn how to show myself grace and actually take steps to celebrate the small wins. Because sometimes progress is almost invisible. It's just little teeny things, and you have to learn how to recognize those.
And I think in our society from early age, we already been told not to brag. We need to always praise other people. But bragging about yourself, that's a no-no. And, when I came to this country and I had to write a resume, and you need to brag about yourself, what you know, it was so weird to me because, like, well, I cannot talk about myself. Other people can talk about me, but oh, no, 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 I should be humble. I should not say that I know 5 languages. How do I know? And but I think it's also I think it was Jack Canfield that the first time I heard about that we all should have a list of our accomplishments, and no matter how big or small. I don't know, have you heard of that one? Probably somebody else. I don't know who even started, but having a list of any accomplishments, no matter how big or small it is, I think we should all have it and read it every day.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to kind of change the direction here just because I'm curious about this and your thoughts on my next question. I kind of goes back to that feeling burnout and in survival mode. And in my mind, the only way to get out of that survival mode and feeling burnt out is to slow down. But from what I've seen, a lot of people feel guilty when they start slowing down. Where do you think that guilt comes from?
I think this answer, I got this answer from, I think, mm, Dr. Gabor Mate, when he was talking a lot about the childhood traumas. And I think that explains so well that when we grew up in the environment that we realize we're not appreciated and worthy enough for who we are, and our worth comes in survival, to make sure that we survive, comes from the place of we need to be productive. We need to be useful. And if we are not doing anything, this means we're useless. This means we'll be excluded from our family, our tribe. And we all know if we are excluded, this means we're going to die. So that's why I think in our society, we just keep on pushing and keep on going. And that's why when you meet someone, let's say you haven't seen them the week, or maybe you haven't seen them a year, and you will ask a question, how are you? I don't know what about you, Travis, but the people that I meet, and they constantly start telling me how busy they are, about their worries, is oh my gosh, I have my kids now this summer, I need to take care of them, then my parents came to visit, then my mother is sick, then I have my 3 businesses I'm running. And it's all about, look at me, how busy I am. Look at me, how stressed I am. What does that mean? That's mean basically that person telling me I am useful. Don't discard me. So then, and I tell you, when I started my healing journey, somebody said, you just need to love yourself more. That triggered me so much because number one, I immediately heard that I am still not good enough. No matter how much I improve myself, I'm still not good enough because apparently I am not doing this right. And number two, I immediately got scared of taking care of myself because loving yourself in our society eyes is being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and if you're selfish, how dare you? So we're going to exclude you from the group if you're selfish. You need to be useful. You need to contribute. And when somebody says, oh, you just need to take care of yourself, it triggers a lot of people. And I love this one exercise that this is what one thing that I say for those that I start working immediately. And now who are listening in, here is a very small tip how to manage your stress and take that little break. So you can use your phone and you can set an alarm on your phone to ring maybe every 2-3 hours. And then when it rings, if it's safe for you to do so, for 1 minute, only 1 minute, stop whatever you're doing. And you just can close your eyes and just stop doing whatever you're doing. Just breathe in, breathe out. Just close your eyes and tell yourself, this minute is for me. And I'm just going to just slow down and just allow myself just to be. If you, let's say you're sitting all day long, maybe you can stand up and just walk around. Just walk around mindfully and just do something different what you were doing before. The key is to give yourself that break, no matter what break that is. Now, I want to pay attention how that made you feel in the moment when I told you that you need to set an alarm, few hours, and then do this break for 1 minute. If you immediately thought to yourself, what? 1 minute? That's not going to be enough. Or, well, this is stupid. I'm not going to put my phone and ring and what I'm going to do now. What I'm saying is this. Pay attention, because if you have a pushback, that is your guilt telling you that, no, you should not do that. And when you think about it, this is only 1 minute. It will really serve you well, because any break that we take, it's always serving us to slow down, take a break. So no brainer. But why are you feeling guilty? No, that's a very different issue. So, when we're talking about taking a break and slowing down, it is not necessarily about physical slowing down, although, of course, the body needs to physically slow down, but the mind needs to slow down. You can be relaxed when you're running a marathon, right? You are relaxed and enjoy when you're doing something that you love doing. You could be painting a painting, or doing gardening, or reading to your kids. So slowing down not necessarily means that you need to stop doing everything completely and be in the Buddha pose over here and, and meditating for half an hour. Even though there are plenty of people who look like they are relaxing and taking a break, and this is what I actually find out when I started managing my stress. I I was doing those stress management bandages. That's why I'm calling them bandages, because they help to stop the bleeding, but not really addressing the wound. And I remember I signed up for yoga classes, as I should, right? Because that's what the stress management is. I went there, and while I'm standing in those poses that I'm supposed to be standing, my mind is running. I am thinking about what I'm going to do tonight, what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm worrying about conversations. I'm replaying the same conversations with people that I had 10 years ago. I'm worrying about something's going to happen in the future. I'm already catastrophizing on something that maybe never will happen. So, what is really relaxation and what is really taking a break? It's not necessarily needs to be physical, but above all, it has to be mental, where you feel relaxed and safe, and you can just be with yourself and know that you can take a break. It can be 1 minute, could be 10 minutes, could be an hour, but you are at peace and doing something that you love that is benefiting you.
That's great. That's actually one exercise that I've never heard of. And I'm going to actually try it. And I'm the type of person that I would be only 1 minute. That's not enough for me. That would be my personality.
So why do works also even 1 minute? First, we take a break. But if you have you heard of a Pomodoro principle?
I think I've heard about it, but I don't recall what it
It's
is.
so basically it's anything that you can do like for 50 or 45 minutes, and then you take 10, 15 minutes break. So I think is we all have our rhythms, and it's good to for us to start doing something, and then you can find that happy medium for you what works. Um, so it could be even an hour. But then let's say you're doing something for an hour, and then you give yourself a break, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you can watch, funny dog videos on YouTube or whatever, something that gives you, happy dopamine or just calming down. Um, you probably notice if you are something, in a meeting or it goes over an hour, people have a tendency to zone out. It's like we're already out. It's like because we cannot hold the attention for so long. So let's say if you have an hour, then you let's say take 5 minutes to take a break, or even that 1 minute. What happens? You give your mind a break, and maybe you'll do something physically different. Maybe you hydrate something, so that's already nurturing your body. But also, what it does, stops your thinking, and of course it works great for your brain and all that. But above all, there is why it works so well is that you telling yourself, by doing any self-care exercise, you showing to yourself that you're not abandoning yourself. You are honoring your needs, and that is building your self-trust that you will take care of yourself. And that is building more confidence for the future stressors, because you will take care of yourself. And that is, I think, the biggest part that has to do with self-help and self-love, is that we are there for ourselves. And then we can face no matter happens that in the future.
That's awesome. I've never just thought of some of this stuff in this way, so it's great. I love what I'm hearing. I sound like a broken record when I say this, because I'm sure listeners have heard this all the time, but I feel like every conversation I have on this podcast, I'm getting some sort of free therapy session. So it's fantastic. And speaking of healing, I think that sometimes healing seems more frightening than staying in the unhealthy patterns that we're used to. Why do you think that is?
Because we get used to pain, um, because that's known. What they say is it's better devil that's known than you know, you know because out of our survival is when we know what we know, then we know what we're gonna do and what to expect, and then things that we cannot foresee that's what's scaring us. That's why when we're looking in the future, if we don't have that self-trust and we don't have confidence, then it's very scary, even though it could be never happen. And when we in the situation, they say we may be afraid of success. It's not only that has to do with that we will need to do something different that maybe we never done before, um, but it also has to do with any change that involves also other people. Um, One of the things I think is hard to bring new uh, different behaviors in our lives, or form different patterns or habits, is that we are afraid we will break the loyalties with other people. And what is that I mean by that is because any change, it will change us, so we will become different people and different identities. And because we are humans and we need other humans, we need to belong to the group. We may be afraid to break those loyalties with other people because if they're not going to like us, that new identity, that other person that has different habits now, that other person now that doesn't drink anymore, for example. And I tell you, this is my example. A few years back, I started a diet, and my coach said it would be great if I would not drink any wine over this 3 months, this 100 days, get in a better body shape. And then I was working out and eating healthy. And I said, okay, I want to go all the way. So I stopped drinking alcohol. And I went, for some parties where my same friends were involved. And when I said I am not drinking and this is my diet, they were very forgiving because, like, of course, I understand you on this diet. Of course, you're not going to drink it. Kudos to you. But then after 100 days, I realized that I feel great. And I did not use alcohol at all. But now my friends had a problem with this. They had an issue of why am I not drinking champagne on the New Year's Eve? And that it brought me all the way when I remember I was a teenager, and you know how it is. Oh, you're not smoking? We all smoking. You have to smoke too. you know, all of this. We need to belong to the same tribe. We need to continuously doing what other people doing. Otherwise we'll be excluded. And so this time I was like, no, I'm not going to drink, even if it is New Year's. And even if it's your birthday, I'm not going to drink it. I'm going to honor my needs. And it was weird for a month or two. Um, I could have been scared and said, I don't want my friends to look at me differently, and I don't want them not to invite anymore, not to invite me to parties anymore. But no, I was strong and I was like, I am confident if they're my friends, me not drinking champagne on the New Year's Eve, probably not going to break that friendship. And if that will break a friendship, then they were not truly my friends. And you know what happened? The beautiful things happened. And that's what I always tell my clients. We need to remember that and have enough courage to learn how to give ourselves permission to break the loyalties to that identity, because it's not only about you. It's about also that you're showing an example to the people to break their identities to the patterns that they want to change. So what I'm trying to say is, few friends in my group of friends also stopped drinking. And they said, you know what, I love it. Like you don't have a hangover and you're looking great. You know what? And since you're not drinking, I'm not going to drink either. And now it's a normal thing. And it's all started from me saying, I don't want to do this. I honor my needs. And then everybody else just followed.
That's really cool. That's true friendship right there, is just following the fact that they followed your lead and stopped drinking, and it became a thing. Because I mean, I grew up, like, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ, so I don't drink or anything, but I had friends that drank and smoked, but they always were very considerate of my standards. So if they were drinking, they'd be like, oh, I know you don't drink, so I'm not ever going to force it on you. If they were smoking, they kind of walk away from me because they know I didn't do it. But it's, so I've never passed judgment or anything. So it's I love to hear like different sides of things, because It's just a different environment.
But I also want to say that giving ourselves permission to do self care, that
Hmm.
is an example showing for others. Is if like, for example, like if you want to be less people pleasing and honor your needs, if somebody says, "Would you like to do this?" and you say no, it's not like that you honor only yourself and you build your self trust, but also it's kind of like you showing that the other person also has a permission to say no as well.
Hmm.
And then more we'll allow ourselves to be true selves and honor other people's needs without being offended, without feeling triggered that, oh, they're abandoning us. The more we feel more safe, then I think the world will be a better place because we'll have more empathy towards others and understanding, and they will not feel so alone and threatened and abandoned. And I think that's how all the world peace starts, when we really uh, honoring our own and other people's needs.
Yeah, I agree. Very well said. So these next questions, I'm kind of going into a different path here because these are some things that popped up from reading into your background that I'm just curious about. One of them is you created the calm process. I'd love to learn more about that.
So when I started coaching others about how to manage stress, I realized that there are some key factors in how we manage stress. And so then I came up with the calm process, and every letter means something. So I'm invite you now to, for those who are listening, and to think about some stressful situation that you're in that you want to solve it. And you could be anything big or could be small, like sitting in traffic and stressing out because you're afraid you'll be late. Um, and then let's think about letter C. It stands for control. Can you control the situation? Now, we cannot control other people. No matter how big of a people pleasers we are, we cannot make other people to do choices for them. We cannot make them take action, or we cannot make them to feel what they feel. We cannot control weather. We cannot control politics of economy or anything that's outside really of us. And someone can think, well, what a bummer. That's just such a disappointment because now I feel hopeless. A lot of our stresses come in relationships with other people. Because again, we in one tribe, we cannot survive on our own. And a lot of things that we dealing with, a lot of includes other people or the circumstances. Well, but of course, could be something like, well, I am stressing out because I cannot fit into my swimsuit and now it's summer. you know, then it's, well, there's a conflict, then that's is up to you. But still, when you can ask someone, well, why you in that kind of shape? Oh, well, because I have to cook dinner for the whole family, and I don't want to cook it just for myself. That's why I am a little bit overweight, because I eat the food that I shouldn't. So it may look like it has to do with other people, but still, at the end of the day, it's you. But the thing is, no matter what situation, who is involved, the bottom line is you are the one who is capable of regulating yourself. So even if you're in a stressful situation, let's say sitting in traffic and there's not much you can do, no matter how angry you're going to get, it's still your attitude that will determine, are you going to be stressed this moment, or you will be able to self-regulate. So then we know, okay, can I control it? All right, I cannot control the people. I cannot control, but I can control myself. Or maybe the answer will be immediately, yes, I can control this. So that's great. Then we're moving to the letter A, which is stands for appreciation or acceptance. I think there is a silver lining in there somewhere. Stop. Because I believe nothing happening without a reason. There is a reason why things happen. And even, I have some clients where they say, well, this thing that I'm going through, there's nothing good. There's nothing good in there. And I'll say, so that's a perfect place for you to see what you don't want to experience. So it is serving you anyway. Even if it's painful, it is the place where you can have a chance to know yourself better. Maybe this is the time when you realize that I need to have boundaries, or this is so painful that this is the time for me to realize that I cannot continue the same thing what I'm doing. And then the key is to, and I recognize, and I ask, make a list. And if you can write it down, it's great. Or you just can run in your mind and ask yourself, what is it you actually doing about that stressful situation? And for example, you're sitting in traffic. It's like, okay, what are you doing? Are you yelling at your neighbors? Are you beeping? You're listening to radio, or you just watching cat videos on your phone. It's like, what is that you're actually doing? And then you need to identify, is it helping you? Or is this not helping you? So, for example, beeping and yelling at people is really not helping you, right? Because not like traffic moved. And what's really happening is you're stressing yourself more. And then there is this key. We need to ask ourselves, why are we keep on doing this? Because you see, when we continuously doing the same thing over and over, we cannot expect different results, right? It's called madness if you continuously doing the same thing, but you expect different results. So that's mean your action also needs to change in order for you to have something different. But the key is to ask yourself, why am I still doing the same thing? So, for example, let's say somebody wants to, slim up, and they now complain that they cannot change their diet because somebody in the family will not like it, or organic food costs more, or they don't have money for the gym. Just an example. Then I always will ask, okay, why you keep on doing the same thing? Because they not allowing me to do it. Okay. How do you think it's serving you? And this is the question that a lot of don't like, because it looks like, no, it's not serving me. I'm in pain. But no, it is serving you. It is always serving us, even if it hurts us. So that's mean a lot of things that we are doing in a stressful situation, and we feel like we're not able to change, or we feel hopeless to change. It is because we rather be in that comfortable zone, what we talked about already, that we feel safe. And the change will mean that we need to break the loyalty with who we are, and we don't know how the people are going to look at us. Because let's say someone who is, never fits in their clothes and they always unhappy, is a very different person than now they slim and now they're happy and now, they feel comfortable. That's a different person. So we are afraid of that change. So there's always bottom line is, why are we doing things on those that we do? Then also there's a lot of things I noticed that we do that actually stressing us and not good for us, because we want to honor somebody else. And I tell you, I had a client who she told me that she, I asked her what's her daily routine looks like, and she was, counted herself as a healthy person, and she said that she's running every morning at 5 o'clock. She wakes up and she goes for a run, and later on, I realized that she was actually stressing about it because she was not getting enough sleep and she was not a morning person. And I asked him, like, why are you doing this? Obviously, you don't like it. You're bullying yourself and waking up in the morning and doing this. You're obviously abandoning your needs of getting more sleep. And I realized that her dad used to run every morning at 5 o'clock, but he passed away, from cancer. So in her mind, she was honoring her dad by running every morning. And how many times do we do in our lives the same thing that's been taught to us? Because we want to honor the authorities in our life. We want to honor our parents, our gurus, and whoever we follow. And what it is that is the inner child of want to be loved and accepted. It's kind of like, look, I'm doing what you're telling me to do. Can you love me now? But it's not really helping us. It's actually hurting us. So that's why we need to identify in the situation, what is that we're doing that is hurting us? and why are we doing that? And then, of course, we need to move away from that place if you want to, because there are plenty of people who love being in the same place, although it looks like, they're suffering. And if you don't have enough courage to move, then I would say you need to ask for help. There's plenty of people, the coaches, the therapists, there's somebody else that you can hire to do things. And so we go right to the last point, that's M. And M, I think, is very important. It's multiplying something that already works that you are doing. And I love that we talked about, making a list of things, of our accomplishments. This is very important to give ourselves credit. And, many times that even if a stressful situation, we are doing something that's actually helping us, and then we need to just do more. So maybe that could be not about a specific stressful situation, but about how to manage stress in general, that may be helping you to self-regulate, give yourself a break. So, for example, you love reading a book or going for a walk, and it helps you to regulate yourself and kind of calm yourself and give yourself a break. So then you can deal with that stressful situation. So how about honor your needs and give yourself permission to read a book for 10, 15 minutes? And even if you don't have time, how about you just tell yourself, I will read one page. And that could be also enough because, like I mentioned before, you're giving yourself that break, but also you're giving something to yourself that you love doing it, and you're not abandoning yourself. You're honoring your own needs. So multiplying what already works and asking for help, delegating things, and especially those who, we learn to be so independent and we want to help others, and we have difficulty with helping ourselves with self-love and self giving ourselves that break. We need to remember one thing, that it's not only about us. When we're taking care of ourselves, we're not only showing example to other people, like I mentioned before, but also we cannot run on empty. We need to fill ourselves first to help others and to give that energy to other people and support them. But also, I think we forget a very big part, that, when I said I learned a lot. We adults, we learn from our childhoods. We learn through example, through, how our parents were managing their stress. That's how we learn it. So, for example, my dad was alcoholic and he was stressed out, so he will go for a bottle, right? So I can grow up and say, you know what, I'm just gonna have a glass of wine, and now I'm gonna, because that's what they learn. That's how my parents learn how to manage their stress and everything else in life. And well, guess what? So if you have children, if you do not help yourself to love yourself and support yourself, you're teaching your kids not to give themselves that support. And so we continue from generation to generation of being stressed out, burnout, not happy. So how about we start doing even small things in our life, not only to ourselves, for ourselves, but also for those generations and for other people around us that can look at us and take example and be happier and healthier.
It's great. I love that framework. And I was just thinking, it's crazy how our kids can like pick up on our habits and start using those habits as their own vices to overcome their stressors.
And they will continue doing that because we've been taught that we need to honor our parents, honor our authorities. So that is time for us to start doing even small things in our lives to show others, so then it can ripple.
Hmm. I agree. So another thing that came up as I was reading through your stuff is a story to impact. This is kind of a two-part. I'd love for you to explain more what that is. And then the second part is, how did sharing your own story become part of your healing?
So I am a 7 times Amazon #1 bestselling author. And I have my self-published my books or participated in book collaborations. And most of the time I talk about stress management and how to heal and work with your childhood wounds. And I had quite a few people would come to me after events where I would talk or coach, and they will see all of those books I've written, and they will ask me, I really have a story inside of me, and how did you do it? So I created and I mentor others how to um, recover that story and tell your story to other people that you can inspire others to heal from inside, to honor your needs. And, when I mentioned in the beginning, when I find out that I was an adult child of alcoholic, I felt very lonely and broken. And one thing, then that was the only thing that really helped me to move out of that place is when I connected to other people and I read more books and they went online and I found communities that they were just like me. And I realized that, wow, I am not broken. I am definitely not alone. And there are people that went through the same thing as I. So that's showing me that I can survive this too. And I can learn from their experiences. And I think that is the beauty and the power of us being in the community, of using that human element, belonging to the tribe. So we're not alone. And we need to have enough courage to share the stories, no matter how dark or painful are, and stop being ashamed of ourselves. Um, and when I start mentoring someone who wants to share their personal story, most of the time there's so much of um, pain and shame involved or suffering, and it has a lot also to do with that. You know, they've been shaped with their family members, and they say, "Well, I want to share my story, but I cannot say this, this, and this, and that." So because they don't want to hurt other people's feelings, and the truth is that is very rarely does our family read our books. And it's not because they don't care about us, but there are also others inner children that are afraid to be rejected. So um, everyone is afraid to read something about themselves. Um, and so I recommend those who want to share their story, please share it all the way. And it's so why is this also healing? Because when you put it on a paper or you talk it out or whatever, you allow that voice out of your body in the writing or in singing or in music, whatever you want to express yourself, you acknowledging this and you honoring your needs. This is the time when you allow yourself to express and your inner child finally gets the voice to speak up, and you are there for yourself. You're not abandoning yourself. And that is so healing. And when I wrote the book, Stress Management for Adult Children of Alcoholics, I also have a diary workbook every day to write. There are questions that you can answer. It was a very healing experience for me because every chapter I would put my personal stories from my childhood in there and with my relationship with my dad. And it gave me an opportunity to see it from a different perspective, from perspective with the empathy, and not only to my dad, but also I saw what my inner child felt that moment when these things were happening, but now from a adult point of view. And it was very healing experience to revisit the stories and share the stories. And the most when I got my biggest reward is when somebody who comes to me after the speech somewhere and or they purchase my book and they contact me, come talk to me, and they say, "Thank you so much for writing this book because I could relate so much," and then allowing me to talk more about myself and open up to my family members. And and the healing is acceptance, is saying there's nothing wrong, I'm okay, we're all here together, and we can support each other. That's why I highly recommend to share your story in no matter format you want. It's not only for you, but also for others, so they can be inspired to heal, to experience and honor themselves as well.
Yeah, awesome. It's and I you got me thinking about when I started this podcast. My very first episode, I shared my own story, and I look back and at how hard it was to be vulnerable And nowadays, like, and I let me back up. It's hard to be vulnerable, and there were some things that I left out, but now, like, I wish I didn't leave them out because I was like, the more vulnerable I am and the more open I am, the better I feel. It's getting your stuff out there is very liberating.
I remember when Jesus said you cannot be a prophet in your own village. Those who know you personally, they will not look at you as someone as an authority. And those who don't know you, and they, let's say, read your book or listen to your podcast, they already looking at you as an authority because you did something that they haven't. And so it's a win-win either way.
Mm-hmm. And I think back to when you said your own family. I know my family doesn't really listen to it, so I was like, well, if they do and they're offended, maybe it's something that they did wrong and not necessarily something that I did wrong.
I agree with you.
So, last question here, and then I have just a few follow-ups. What's the biggest misconception people have about stress management?
They think that stress management needs to be stressful to manage. What I mean by that, it looks like stress is a very big thing. It's taking so much of time and energy and pain and suffering. Um, so we think that because it's so big, the solution is also needs to be so big as well. But it shouldn't be. Even taking 1 minute a day or reading a chapter a day and honoring your needs just looks like it's a very small thing, but that can change trajectory of all your life if you really allow it to.
Perfect. And then this one is a very like generalized question. I love to hear the responses I get though. What do you feel is the biggest stigma when it comes to mental health?
Of showing your true vulnerability. There's a lot of wearing a mask, and we're still trying to portray someone else that we expected to look like. There's a lot of acting, what they say, and being afraid to show that part of truly who you are because we are afraid to be neglected, rejected, and abandoned.
Very well said. It's we live in a world where it's shameful almost to show your true self, but then it's you do it and it's really just honestly once told my story, it was like one of the best things I ever did.
And the beautiful thing, I think, the moment that we allow ourselves to say no or to do anything and nobody dies, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the life does not stop. It's still going. And then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I just said that and nothing happened.
Nothing. Nobody got struck by lightning. Nobody got hit. Yeah, hit by a car. Everything's fine. And now, where can people find you?
So my website, BeAmazingYou.com. I also have plenty of videos about stress management, also how to write and self-publish books on my YouTube channel, the same name, Be Amazing You. I also take stress management coaching clients and mentoring how others to write and self-publish books. And all of this is found on my website, BeAmazingYou.com.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to add all those links in the show notes. The last thing here is we covered a lot of ground tonight. Is there anything that you'd like to bring up that we did not discuss?
I would just say be kind to yourself. It's not a big deal. Just be kind to yourself.
I agree. That's good words of advice because I find that it's such a small thing, but yet big thing at the same time. Well, Lolita, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with me tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Travis.
I really admire how you're using your story to help people. And thank you to all the listeners. If this resonated with you, please share and give us a follow. Thanks again. Until next time.